Good evening and welcome. We are so excited to have you back in the High Vibe Kitchen with Rebekah. I'm Susan Johnson, and tonight we are talking about artichokes. Rebekah and I have been working together for a little while, and we had someone say, I'd really like to learn more about artichokes. So we thought this would be a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit about them and have Rebekah show us how to make a delicious dish using these really cool vegetables. So I'm going to put myself on quiet. I'm going to turn it over to Rebekah, and we'll get going here. Take it away, Rebekah.
Hi, Susan. Hello, everybody. So today we're going to make artichokes, and I'm thinking that the most simple way for us to make artichokes is how we're going to do them tonight. So personally, this is the only way that I make artichokes because I just enjoy it the most, and the flavor is preserved, and it's just like it's the most simple way to go about having artichokes. So when I was in the military, my roommate and I used to have it'd be like equivalent to our popcorn and movie night, except we would do artichoke night, right? Because it was the same thing, like a finger food that you could just munch on would be the artichoke, right? And we lived in California at the time, and it's the home of the perfect artichoke. So yeah, so here we go. So if you boil artichokes, I feel like you lose a lot of the flavor of the artichoke. And then if you bake them and typically make a nice little breadcrumb or breadcrumb cheese combination stuffing to put in there, I mean, it's good. But the artichoke doesn't really need all that for you to really taste how good it could be. So that's kind of my feeling on the artichoke. So here we go. We got a pot of water here that should be boiling. I'm not quite sure why it's not. But anyway, so we have a little bit of water in the bottom of this pan. So you can kind of think of this pan, you can just put the steamer in there, and you can put your artichokes in, and you could steam away, and that works perfectly fine too. I'm going to today, just because we can, I'm going to just slice up a lemon, and I'm just going to put the lemon in the cooking water just for the essence of lemon. Now, if you like, lemon essential oils, we could add that in the end. But I think that the essence of the lemon really just adds, a nice scent to the artichokes. Okay, so we have that in there. Your water is, ideally we want it to be a nice low boil, right? And then our artichokes are going to go in here. So what I do is I just cut off any of these little guys that are hanging out down here, right? Because actually they don't really have any meat. Even this guy here, is the low hanging ones here, there's no meat on this, right? It's just kind of like a leaf, right? So you can pull them off or you can cut them, whatever you want to do. But ideally you want to get it to the point where the bigger leaves are showing as opposed to the little leaves, because the bigger leaves are where you're going to get the most meat of the artichoke, right? So that's all you do. You go around the base of it and you pull off the smaller little leaves that don't really have much to offer, like this, right? Right? And we have one more here. Same thing. Just pull off these little guys. Look at how beautiful that is. I mean, that's just a beautiful work of art, right? Yeah, that's it, right? Okay, so we take out those smaller ones like that. And then you can take the top of your artichoke here. Whoops. And then we're just going to cut off a little of the top. Now, sometimes you'll get these, I'm going to take that guy off too. If it's like a loose leaf, it looks like it doesn't want to be there anymore, just get rid of it. A lot of times the artichokes will be kind of thorny, kind of prickly. And so sometimes, if you have sometimes you'll want to go around and just cut off the thorny components like this, if there's some prickliness going on. But this little organic artichoke is perfectly fine the way it is. So we don't have to cut off any of those thorns. So then we just come up to the top here, and we're just going to cut off a little bit of the top leaves like that, right? That's it. And I mean, technically you could cut off more of this, but now here's the deal. The bottom of the artichoke is the heart. And that heart has the most dense, delicious flavor, delicious meat, right? Artichoke meat. So I keep the stem on, and then when the artichoke is cooked, then I could cut off what I want to cut off, right? So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to cut off a little bit more, right? And that's how we're going to do it. We're just going to put them in there like this. Same thing with all these guys. Going to cut off a little bit, a little bit of the top. And when you're picking an artichoke, you know, you want them to feel like dense and firm. You don't want them to feel like airy, like when you squeeze them like that and it kind of feels like spongy. That's not really ideal. You know what I mean? You want your artichoke to be firm because then you know it's got some meat to it, right? Yeah. So again, we're just going to cut off the top a little bit like this, because when we get into actually eating this artichoke, it's the base of the artichoke leaf is where the fun is. That's going to be the fun of the leaf when it's all cooked, right? Like, let's see here. We pull off a leaf here, right? Like this. And then, and a cooked artichoke, this here is this is what you're going to be eating. Like, this is like your popcorn right here. Okay. So, and these guys are going to cook anywhere 20, 25, 35 minutes, depending on how big and how dense they are. I think these are going to, you know, cook in probably 25 is my guess. They're not super dense. So that's going to be my guess, 25, but let's see here. So, okay. So then that's it. So we lid them up and that's it. And that's all you're going to have to really do for these guys to get where they want to get. So this is why I said it's like great for like a, you know, a night when you're just hanging out and, you know, watching TV or got a good movie going on or something like that, and you just want like some fun finger food. This is fun finger food, you know. So yeah, so that's it. So, and I lost a garlic clove here in the mix. Oh, there he is. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the other part. Okay.
So Rebekah, let me jump in while you're moving that out. I'll just jump in and talk quickly a little bit about artichokes. Artichokes come from the Mediterranean. That's where they originated, and they're part of the sunflower family, which I had no idea. I did not know they were part of the sunflower family. For those of you who are watching what you eat, they are high in fiber. Artichokes actually have what's called an inulin fiber in them. Inulin you'll often see in supplements. Inulin's a bulking fiber, and those of you who have done programs with me know I have no problem talking about poop, so we'll talk a little bit about inulin fiber. It's a bulking fiber, and what that means is that it doesn't absorb a lot of water, but it bulks up the waste in the intestinal tracts and actually scrubs them down to kind of help clean the intestinal tract. It's actually one of those great foods that if you are a person who are looking to avoid any kind of cancer in the intestines or in the colon, it's a great food for that. So it's a really great fruit. Now it is a FODMAP. It's a very low FODMAP if you buy canned ones, but fresh like this will be higher in FODMAPs. So for those of you who are working with a lower FODMAP diet, you'd want to watch how many of these you eat. So I just thought I'd give a little hint about some of the background of artichokes. So back to you, Rebekah.
That was great, Susan. I love that. Plus, I like to just listen. You know, sometimes it's nice to not talk. Actually, I like talking. You know, I like not talking. So that was, you could jump in anytime you want, Susan. That was really wonderful. Yeah, so again, so now we're back to our really super simple recipe. Okay, so essentially, if we were making this a traditional like plant series or a traditional series, right, we would say, oh, well, you know, an artichoke goes really lovely with a mayonnaise, right? Like a really delicious homemade mayonnaise is nice. So certainly we can make a mayonnaise, and you know, a mayonnaise is, you know, simply like an egg and oil emulsion with some lemon juice and a little bit of salt, maybe some Dijon in there. And, you know, that's just going to kind of elevate it to that nice creamy state. You zip it up real fast and, you know, it incorporates the air and it gets all nice and fluffy. But for us, we're trying to focus on the plants, right? So I don't know if anybody would prefer a mayonnaise then I can certainly show you how to make a mayonnaise, and we can do that at another time, or, you know, now if anybody wants to drop in the chat there, you know, that they really want to learn how to make a mayonnaise, I can certainly show you that. But for today, what we're going to do is this. That's what I'm thinking here. Actually, I've actually just cleaned some oregano that I pulled from my garden. So then I'm going to just show you what I got here. I'm using some fresh oregano because I love fresh oregano, but fresh oregano is super powerful. I mean, it's, if you're not used to the flavor of fresh oregano, you know, I would start with just a little bit and try it and see what you think. And then, you know, maybe add a little bit more, but I mean, I love fresh oregano is a powerhouse of, you know, health properties. So, and then I just take the leftover stems from my oregano, and then I have a little pot here of, for tea. And then I'm just going to put those little leaves in there and then pop the lid on. And then, so we're not going to waste any of that goodness. And then we're just going to make a little pot of tea. So yeah, so for this, what we're going to do is we're going to replace the egg component of our mayonnaise with a form of a white bean. So you could certainly use cannellini beans. We have some chickpeas here today. And if you didn't want to use any bean at all, and you were just happy doing a nice dipping oil, then you could certainly do that too, with just simply some olive oil, some lemon, some oregano, salt, and pepper, just the ingredients that we sent out, you know, and a little bit of garlic. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to make this really simple. And I'm going to try to write a recipe as we go here, just so that we have it for future use if we want to, right? So this here is, let's see, we got here, that's a quarter cup. It's a quarter cup of chickpeas. So we got 3 artichokes working here. So I'm just going to try to not go crazy on the quantity that we're going to end up with here. And you know what? Let's do this. Okay, so a quarter cup, I'm going to call it a quarter cup of chickpeas for each artichoke. That's what I'm going to do, okay? So then we have 3/4 of a cup of chickpeas. This was the equivalent of 1 can drained, so just for point of reference, you know. And then we have some garlic here, so we'll just give it a pop. That's it, right? This, you know, that's a hearty clove of garlic. I don't know how, you know, how pungent it is, so I'm just going to start with about that much garlic for now. Pop that in there. I'm going to do a little bit of the oregano. I like oregano, so there, that's for me. And I also did some fresh parsley. Again, you don't need to use any herb in this if you don't want to. You can simply do the, you know, just the garlic, chickpeas, oil, lemon, salt, right? So I'm going to do a little parsley and a little oregano. Then we're going to do some lemon juice here. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to say, let me do this.
So I'll quickly pop on and say to people, you know, chickpeas are an interesting thing. They have a lot of great properties, but chickpeas are like peanuts. They're one of those legumes that can have a mold. You can do your own dried chickpeas, and you can actually buy them that have a stamp that says that they are mold free. And all you do is hydrate them overnight in a jar of water to get them back. Now, Rebekah's used a canning, so that's fine as well. But for those of you who are more concerned about that kind of stuff, particularly if there's autoimmune issues, you can do the type that you buy online that are guaranteed not to have the mold. So back to Rebekah.
Susan, what does the actual, what would the actual label say if they were mold free? Like what would
it actually says that it's a mold free chickpea. When you there's a brand that you can buy, but you would Google it and you would Google you know, mold free dried chickpeas, because it like
wow,
there is, yeah, there are people who are very sensitive to the molds on legumes like peanuts and chickpeas.
I think that's fascinating, actually. I did not know that. I love that. Okay, so I just juiced a lemon. We're not going to need a whole lemon, but there you have lemon juice. Okay. All right, so now let's see here. I'm gonna start with 1 teaspoon at a time here. Let's see, we got 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoon, 3 teaspoon, 4 teaspoons. I'm gonna start with 4 teaspoons and see where we end up. Okay, and then, oh, the only thing we don't have out is some olive oil. Let's see here. Okay, so let's do, okay, so here's the thing with mayonnaises, right? We all know that canola oil at this point in the game is a no bueno, right? Unless it's a non-GMO, good, pure, clean canola oil, it's genetically modified, right? Which we don't want. But a mayonnaise doesn't really like a heavy oil because the heaviness of, like, let's say a cold pressed extra virgin olive oil will, you know, weigh down the lightness of the flavors that you're trying to get from a mayonnaise, right? So I'm going to mix some olive oil and some avocado oil. If you have an alternative oil that you like to use for salad dressings or anything like that, go for it. And then let's see how much we're going to do here. So we have,
And I'll jump in again here while you're figuring that out. Remember that you want to avoid the omega-6 oils. So those are the canolas, the sunflowers, the safflowers. If you're going to choose oils, again, that avocado oil, palm oil would be another one in a case of a recipe like this that you could put in. Palm oil has some challenges, but not as much as the omega-6 oils. And certainly, you know, blending the avocado with the olive oil to make it lighter is a great way to do that. But really, even the non-GMO organic canola oils are still an omega-6, which can be very bad for inflammation and for cholesterol. All right, there you go.
great, Susan, thank you. You often wonder how many people, you know, that are struggling with physical pain in their body, if it's like simply due to, let's say, the oil from fast food, right? Because if genetically modified canola oil is a source of inflammation and somebody's just eating, oh, I think I'm doing something good because I'm eating, you know, like whatever, sweet potato, you know, the wrong oil makes the difference, right?
100%.
So, okay.
100% makes
So
sense.
now,
Yep.
yeah, right.
How much oil did you put in, Rebecca? I'm
Yeah,
ready.
it's like those. Yeah, so I did an 1/8 cup of olive oil and an 1/8 cup of avocado oil.
Great.
Yep. And then I think I'm gonna do, let's see here, what am I gonna do here? Let's see here. Again, I'm doing like a small batch here, and we could always triple the recipe or quadruple it for quantity's sake. But just because, you know, sometimes you end up with, I mean, I don't know if you do, but sometimes I end up with the sauce in the fridge that just doesn't, I just make too much out the gate and then I don't use it. So I don't want to do that right now. So let's see. That's 1/4 of salt. This is another 1/4 of salt. So right now we're at a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to just do some black pepper in there. And I'm going to do the same amount of black pepper. Okay, now we're going to start out with that. Again, you could put a little splash of Dijon in there. I didn't tell you guys to grab Dijon or mustard. I have some, you know, organic yellow mustard here. But, you know, certainly if we were going to put a little in here, I'd say maybe like a teaspoon would be great. You know, 1.5 teaspoons, but let's just start with this.
For those of you who might want to use a mustard, there are many great organic mustards. There's the yellow mustards, there's the Dijon mustards. They are fabulous. They add a lot of flavor. They're really good for you, and you can find really quality ones. But like anything else, make sure you look at all the ingredients in the mustard.
Yeah, so I'm gonna add just a splash of water in here, okay? So what are we gonna do here? What do we got here? Let's see. What is this here? Teaspoons, okay. All right, so I got 2 teaspoons of water in here, Susan. Right? And that's just to, it has to just lighten up a little bit, you know? Or 4 teaspoons. Did I say 4? Yeah, I did 4 teaspoons of water. Okay, let's see, hold on. Okay.
Ooh, look at that tea boiling. That's wonderful. Oh, and look at the artichokes. That's great. That's great.
Okay, let's see where we're at. Wow, yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to kind of see here. Let me get a little spoon so I can show you. So you can see here now it has a little bit of a green texture, right? Because it's, wow. Yikes. That's pretty darn delicious. I mean, I don't know that I'd really do anything to it. Johnny, want to try it? Got it?
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't change it.
It's pretty good, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that is, you know, your equivalent of a plant-based mayonnaise, right? So you can take this concept, right? So the lemon would be stationary, the water would be stationary, the garlic would be stationary, the salt, the pepper, and then a bean element, right? That would be your stationary components for a plant-based mayo. Now, where you want to take it beyond that, infinite, totally infinite, right? Like you could do essential oils to that. You could do chili peppers to that. If you wanted to make a little bit of a sweeter mayo, you could do a little heat and then a little bit of maple or something like that, right? And you have that, like that blend. Again, fresh herbs, infinite, spices, infinite. So, you know, we're thinking summertime right now, right? So just imagine you're having like a little barbecue and you put some fresh roasted peppers and zucchini on the grill. And now you slather this deliciousness on them when they come off the grill. And now, I mean, it's like completely delectable. So yeah, so I think this is like, this is one for the archives here, right? We want to keep this concept on board going forward when we're making recipes, because there's a lot that you can do with this concept here, right? So there we go. So I'm just going to take this,
Rebekah,
I'm going to put it in a little bit.
Yeah, Rebekah, could you replace that with, say, a Brazil nut or a macadamia nut, or would it completely change it?
Yes, you can, Susan. To be honest with you, I actually have cashews in the fridge that are soaking right now, and So, I mean, if you bring the whole thing back around, right? Like a chickpea is essentially, a legume, that has been already cooked, soaking in essentially like a salt brine, right? A lightly salted brine. Cashews I have in the fridge right now that are soaking in water. I believe cashews are in the legume family as well. So absolutely, drain the cashews. You would have to soak them first. Then you would want to drain them. Then you could interchange them for the chickpeas, absolutely. The only thing that might be just a little bit different on the end product would be you might need a little bit more salt because most of the beans are in some form of a salt solution in the can. So yes, that's a great idea, Susan.
Okay, and then what about like a macadamia nut or a Brazil nut as opposed to a cashew?
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? So cashews puree in a much creamier consistency than say a Brazil or a macadamia nut, right? So the fiber that's in a Brazil or a macadamia nut doesn't break down the way the protein fibers in the cashew break down when you puree and when you soak them. They don't absorb the water. I think that's a good way to say it, is that it just doesn't absorb the water the same way that a cashew does. So when you puree or when you soak a Brazil nut or soak a macadamia nut, you could absolutely 100%, specifically if it's for purposes of, like, let's say you're doing, a reboot, where you're decreasing sugars in your diet and you don't want the sugars that would normally be in a cashew. You could absolutely do a macadamia nut or a Brazil nut, but just keep in mind that the end product is not going to be as creamy. You're going to have a little bit more of that fiber feel in your mouth. And so that's going to be the only difference, is that the end product is not going to have that, creamy, luxurious sort of smoothed out consistency as you would get if you were to use a cashew or a bean.
Yeah, that looks wonderful. That really, you can see the consistency of that is really nice and smooth and beautiful.
And it really does taste pretty darn good. I mean, I'm going to be honest, this little bit of fresh oregano, like, big fan of using the fresh herbs because we have them, right? They're just abundant. You could absolutely use dried oregano. You could absolutely use dried parsley if you wanted to. You're never going to achieve the same, vibrant state that you would if you had the fresh herbs with the fresh oils. Even basil would be freaking awesome in this, right? So fresh herbs are the way to go with this. But if you don't have fresh herbs, I mean, honestly, you could just do the mayonnaise and it's still completely delicious. And if you don't have the fresh herbs, but you do have essential oils, then make the plain mayo and then just drop in a drop or two of your favorite essential oil and use that to kind of bring life to your mayo. So that'd be my suggestion. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Cool. Yeah. So just a little bit on chickpeas. They're also called garbanzo beans. So for some people, are wonder what they are. They're actually garbanzo beans. Like Rebekah said, they are in the legume family. So they're part of that, and they are also very heavy in fiber. So if you are doing a dish with chickpeas and with artichokes, just know that you are going to get that good whoosh of fiber in there. So there could be maybe a little gas, but you definitely are not going to be backed up after eating these two together. It's going to be an amazing flavor, and it's going to be good for giving you that slide factor that you might be looking for to stay regular.
The slide factor, Susan. That's a nice one. I like that. The slide factor. Susan, only you could come up with the slide factor, That works for you, the slide factor, but I like it. So that's it, Susan. I mean, we're going to wait for our artichokes to finish up here. Let's take the top cover off here and see where we're at, right? So what happens with the artichoke when they're good to go is they're you can kind of pull them off easy. The little leaves fall off easy. So they're not ready yet. So we're going to keep the lid back on. I'm going to pour in a little bit more water just to make sure it has plenty of water in there. And yeah. And, and then when you steam your vegetables, I always save my water from steamed vegetables and I use it to like nourish my plants too. So just remember that when you're, whatever you're cooking with, especially when you're steaming vegetables, I steam potatoes, goes in the plants, leftover coffee grinds in the plants. Try to just, find multi-purposes because all of the nutrients are kind of leaching back into the water there. It's steaming the nutrients and dripping back down the water, and then it's just good stuff. So yeah, so that's it. And then, I know like Maria is, has a little bit of a, allergy or some sort of sensitivity to onions. I don't know if she does to garlic. But certainly if anyone has a sensitivity to say garlic in this recipe, you can easily substitute shallot. You could easily substitute leeks. You could easily substitute scallions. So just remember that,
Yeah, and you could also infuse your oil too, correct? So you could have done an infused garlic oil or an infused scallion oil just to get that flavor in 100%. And not actually put the onions in, because we know it's not the oil that bothers people. We know it's the greens that generally bother them. Although, Marie, I'm not sure if you get bothered by onion that's been infused. You can jump off and answer that if you want, honey.
I believe with me, because I don't really have a sensitivity to onion powder, I believe it's the oil in the onions.
You there, Susan?
Susan, you're muted.
I'm here. Sorry. The puppy was whining at my door. I have a brand new puppy and he was whining at my door. And I'm like, get the puppy out. Don't let the puppy out. So Kevin's like, I got it. I'm like, okay, good.
That was me last night. Yeah. So Susan, what I said is I don't have a sensitivity to onion powder. So I believe it is the oil in the onions that bothers me.
Interesting. Interesting. And only through doing food sensitivity testing and trialing do you find these kind of things, because there are people that, have just it's an odd thing, it's where the powder doesn't bother you, but the oil does, or, the actual plant does, but the oil doesn't. So that it really is interesting and always a great thing to learn about yourself.
So Maria, so specifically for this recipe here, you could easily substitute onion powder in this recipe to help season this. If you don't want to use garlic, I don't know if you do use garlic, but certainly,
Oh, honey, I used garlic. Whoops, I just spilled it. But I did. I made the recipe.
Oh, you're making it with me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fun stuff. Did you try it?
Oh, yeah, it's good. My artichokes are still processing, but my sauce is done.
I love it. Very, very cool. Did you use some fresh oregano?
I didn't have fresh oregano. I used the fresh parsley. I might have had oregano out front, but I only went to my back deck because I was trying to listen at the same time.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did use the mustard.
I think it's good. You use the mustard. Good. I was going to say you could also, you're pretty good with the essential oils too. So you could easily find an essential oil that would,
yeah, the oregano.
You could add 1 million essential oils. Yeah, you could add a lot of essential oils to that. This is a really delicious spread. I think this is a delicious spread that you could really keep it in your repertoire of, options going forward, just because it's so versatile,
Yeah, one of the biggest complaints we always get is people say my food doesn't taste as good because I can't use the stuff that I normally use, right? When they're trying to be better about what they're eating, they're trying to not buy some of the processed stuff that's in the supermarket. This would be a great option as a spread on a sandwich, for dipping, those type of things. So it really does give you some nice flexibility.
Yeah. And you know what, Susan, I mean, if you think about, let's just think about, we're going to deconstruct the concept here of like, when most people think of an artichoke, right, they think of like a cheesy artichoke dip, right? So what's a cheesy artichoke dip, right? It's nothing more than artichoke, some spinach, some mayonnaise, right? Which we have the mayonnaise here. Some form of cheese in there, a grated cheese, a melted cheese. And maybe some sliced onions, right? Like maybe the onions. We have all of that right here. So, and now we have the artichoke here. So, I mean, if you really were looking at this just strictly from nutrition, you could even zip up some spinach in here, right? And now you have a spinach mayo, and then you dip in your artichoke. So, I mean, the flavor profile of what you're going to achieve with something simple like this is, infinitely better for you, for your body, overall, than a cheesy spinach artichoke dip. And I mean, how simple was that? Wasn't really much work at all, right? I mean,
yeah, it was super easy. Now, what about nutritional yeast? What do you think about nutritional yeast?
Yeah, so I mean, I use nutritional yeast, and we just used nutritional yeast earlier today because we actually developed a recipe that we're going to be making next week. But nutritional yeast is the plant world, comparable shake-on option as would be Parmesan cheese. Wait, I think I have some. Hold on.
Yeah, what's great about nutritional yeast is it actually gives you some protein as well. So, kind of like hemp seeds, it does have protein in it, which is a nice option if you need to add a little protein to your diet.
Yeah. Yeah, I have food all over the place there, Susan. Okay, so I have the Bragg's nutritional yeast seasoning, right? Here we go, right? Can you see that? And then if you switch to the panel on the side, I don't know if you can see this or not, right? Has 160%. So this is like good for your B vitamins, right? 160% riboflavin, thiamine, niacin, 1 tablespoon. So, I mean, that's not very much, right? That's not very much. So you could easily get a good dose of your B vitamins by just shaking this onto, even if you were to make, a chili dish, or, I mean, this would be great in this situation too. And certainly we could, let's see, here. So this is a tablespoon, right? Yeah, so this is a tablespoon here. I mean, that's not that much, right? So you could absolutely shake that onto your artichoke, or shake it into you mix it right in there to your dip. I make sauces with this where I incorporate it in. I prefer having this be like an enhancer as opposed to an ingredient, just because my palate likes to taste it as its own item as opposed to something that's been, mixed in and kind of melded in. But yeah, this is a great option for adding just that cheesiness to dishes. Certainly if you're making like a cashew cream sauce, right? And you wanted to kind of take it into let's say you wanted to take a cashew cream sauce and you wanted to bring it into like a nacho cheese world, right? Then you would take your cashew cream, just like we kind of did today, and you would zip that up with maybe like a roasted red pepper, some nutritional yeast, and maybe like a little bit of chipotle or something like that. Zip that up, and now you have like a plant-rich version of like a nacho cheese sauce. So yeah, there's so much. I mean, it's infinite. It saddens my heart when people think like that. Eating this way, eating lots of plants is rabbit food. It's boring. Because really, there's more flavor in this realm of cooking than in the traditional means that people have been raised on, just because we have access to the herbs, we have access to the spices, we have access to all of these really wonderful flavor enhancers that just add nutrients, essential oils, great olive oils, so yeah, we have it made in the plant world. So like, that's why I'm really excited that, you guys are joining us for this, because once you get comfortable having like a repertoire of recipes that you can kind of go to and pull from, you're going to be able to create from there as well. You're going to be able to say, hey, I want to make, let's say, a plant-rich lasagna, right? And you're going to say, hey, how can I do that? Oh, well, wait, I can take my cashew cream sauce and I could make that be a cream base. I could slice up some butternut squash, some zucchini at the end of the summer, and maybe throw some sage into that cream sauce, and, have it be more of an Alfredo based lasagna as opposed to a tomato based lasagna, because now you have your cream sauce working for you. So the recipes that we're going to be making going forward are really for that purpose. They're to kind of, help you be able to see more options than just a one dish meal, right? Like, you want to be able to take the concept of making this and take it in your own direction with your own ideas. Yeah. So let's see what we got going here. Be on their way. Woo, not yet. Getting there. Getting softer. Hot as heck.
So I always have to laugh, artichokes. My mom never made artichokes when we were younger, and I was an exchange student in France, and the family that I stayed with loved them. And they did them in all different kinds of ways, but they had many types of dipping sauces and things that you could use. And they had to kind of teach me how to eat them. But I've loved them ever since, but never grew up with them in my diet.
Yeah, I didn't either, Susan, never. I don't think, no, really. It wasn't until I was out on my own that I had artichokes. It's funny, right?
Now, Brenda, were you the one that had asked about artichokes? Was it you or was it Celia? It was you. So what made you take yourself off mute? Tell us what made you think about artichokes.
Well, I've always seen them in the store, and I had no clue what to do with them. And our neighbor, when we lived in Texas, I think I told you this story, he cooked them and he used a pressure cooker. And then he couldn't get the pressure cooker open to get the artichokes out. And so he took this pressure cooker box, the pressure cooker with the artichokes in it, back to the store, because it was a Christmas present, the Christmas present. So we have had a good laugh about that for many, many years. But they've all, ever since that story, they've just always been there, and I pick them up and I look at them and I put them back because I had no idea what to do with them. And I like artichoke hearts, but that are already done in the jar at the store, but I had no idea what to do with an artichoke. So yeah, that was me that asked for that.
I love that. That is the best. I'm so glad you did.
So
yeah, Celia, certainly, Johnny and I were just mentioning it, right? Like the local, sort of regional way that they cook artichokes here is to essentially stuff them with like Progresso breadcrumbs and butter and parsley and salt, garlic powder. That was like the old school way of making them. And then they would put them into a shallow baking dish, foil them up, bake them in the oven, long time, let the steam kind of cook them. And that's great. That's great if that's how you enjoy them, But the breadcrumbs, in my opinion, kind of muck up how good they are. They're really just so nice just to taste the artichoke, and then here we have a nice clean sauce too. So, it's like, why go that route when you're really only giving yourself some empty carbs and additional fat when you can get some good carbs and some good fat in a way that like feels better, you know? So that's kind of how I look at it. But yeah, that was the way here growing up was, you know, the breadcrumbs and the butter and the garlic powder, the sea salt, some dried parsley, and you know, mix that all up together. And then you take the artichokes and you stuff it into the folds of the leaves, you know, kind of have your artichoke sitting here with the top cut off, and you stuff all that stuffing in there and kind of let it, you know, bake into it. The butter bakes down into the artichoke. And okay, anything's good with butter, right? But this is just better. This is just better because it's nutrients, you know? So, oh, okay. So that was a nice one, right? So my little artichoke leaf just came off nice. That made me happy. So here's, I'm going to try this too, just because I don't know, like if it's totally done, but it's kind of, it just peeled off nicely. So that made me happy. So the base of the artichoke leaves is where the meat of the artichoke is, right? Because again, I told you that the base of the artichoke down here is where the heart of the artichoke is. So essentially, if you were going to have like a little artichoke party, me and my roommate, we would just take these little leaves. We each have our artichoke. We're sitting on the couch. We have a movie on. We each have our little bowl of dip, like, you know, our dipping sauce here. And, you know, we're happy as a clam. And you just dip your little sauce in there like that. And then you bite down like edamame beans. Have you ever had an edamame bean where you kind of like pull out the bean? And you just kind of skim off the meat that's in the base of the artichoke. Wow, that's really good actually. So they need to go a couple more minutes, you know, but that's essentially how you're going to enjoy these artichokes. And I think they're pretty darn good, you know. So Maria, how's your coming?
When you peel off the little layers, do you get down to the artichoke heart that you can actually eat separately, or does that become part of it?
Yeah, so if our artichokes decide they want to like comply and cook in a reasonable time fashion here, then yeah, we'll do that. Well, I'll show you. We can you know, let me just take one. Let me see if we can. I'm going to take the smallest one here, right? I'm going to let those guys keep cooking. Okay. So essentially,
Mine aren't done yet either. Mine aren't.
What's
done.
that?
Mine aren't done yet either.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you what, they're on their way, and this is good. Maria, do you have oregano essential oil?
I do.
Yeah, you might want to try a little bit in there. I mean, I know the oregano oil is a little bit of a different taste than the regular raw oregano, but man, that oregano tastes really good in there. So, okay, so here's the deal. We peel off these leaves. I'm going to do this. Let's see how we're going to do this here. See how nice these leaves are just popping off here? That's great. That's like golden, right? They're just falling off nice and easy. Whew. Smoking hot. Fingertips are numb. Let's see here. Right. Now, if you see here, like as we're getting into the base here, see this where the artichoke leaves have pulled apart? That right there is the heart. So when you buy a can of artichoke hearts, that's what you're getting. It's just the purest form of the you know, the rich artichoke flavor. So just pulling all these guys off here like this. Holy heat wave, Batman. This is some heat. Whew.
You know, while you're doing that, Rebekah, I do just want to mention for those people that don't cook with essential oils all the time, you would never put a drop of oregano into your mix. You would take a toothpick and touch the top of your essential oil, and then you would kind of swirl it into your mix until you found out how much you like. Now, obviously, once you swirl it in, you have to throw that one away if you're going to add more oregano. But anytime you're experimenting with a new essential oil, always go slowly, because you can always add more, but you can't take it out once you put it in. Just a little quick tip.
Yeah, I always go big. So good point, Susan. I always I never use the toothpick method, although you're 100% right. I just dive right in, you know. So. Okay, so when we get down further in here, right, we're gonna enter like the region that's called the choke. And it's like a fuzzy wuzzy. Okay, so for those of you who've never eaten an artichoke, right? Like this kind of stuff here, this is, you don't eat this, right? These are just the leaves that are covering the choke of the artichoke, right? But it's really beautiful. It looks like a flower, actually. It does look like a sunflower when you kind of get up close like this, right? So now this is what we're going to show you here. We're going to pull off this stuff here. And then you get to this, like, it almost looks like corn husk, right? And this is the choke, right? This is the hairy, fuzzy wuzzy area of the artichoke that you don't eat this, right? So that stuff you just pull off, or you can just cut it. You can just go right down to the base of it and cut it off. But when you cut it off, you really want to make sure that you're not cutting off any of the heart, because it, like, look at that. I mean, that's just freaking fascinating, right? Look at how beautiful that is. Right? And then this here, this is your artichoke heart here. You know, so don't listen. It's like eating crab, you know. You can't expect to get full on a crab, right? There's a lot of effort that goes into cleaning a crab to eating a crab. The same thing with artichokes, but there's a beauty, you know, and an art to the experience and to the enjoyability of it, right? So again, this is the heart down here, and if you were to just cut this into pieces like this, that's the best part. That right there is like the best part of the artichoke right there.
Show that again.
Yeah. And this is a hearty little piece of pure deliciousness right here. So here, try it. Got it? Mm-hmm. So that's the artichoke, you know, that's the artichoke in a nutshell. And like I said, so all these little guys here, you would eat them one by one. You just dip it in like that. And then you kind of like bite down on it, and you let your teeth scrape off the meat that's in the bottom leaves. And, you know, sometimes you get an artichoke and they'll be super meaty. This artichoke is not very meaty. But I'm still gonna, you know, enjoy it here, you know. But yeah, so that's
like picking crab legs.
Like crab legs, you know. You have to kick back with, you know, like your favorite beverage and think of it as an experience, not like an opportunity to like get full, essentially, you know.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Rebekah about artichokes?
I do.
Yeah, Brenda does too. So great. Go ahead, Maria.
Can you overcook one?
I mean, not really. I mean, you can overcook it, but all it's going to do is make it more tender. It's just going to make it, you know, kind of like when you know, cook chicken, and the more you cook it, the more it kind of falls off the bone. The same thing happens with the artichoke.
It's okay for the leaves to
get you're not
darker.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this guy here, I don't know. How long has our call been tonight, Susan, so far? Like, we've been on for what, like?
Well, we've been on for almost
35 minutes.
Yeah, we've been on for almost an hour.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically, like, I think May region is like when, you know, artichokes are really in their prime. So now we're in July. So, in my opinion, the artichokes, and I checked the store for the past 2 weeks now, and the artichokes have not been ideal for what I'm kind of like used to, what I would like look for in an artichoke. But you get it now, right? So this is the artichoke experience. So yeah, so if you want to let it go for a couple more minutes, Marie, just to feel like, oh, you know that it's done, go for it, you know. Other thing is that here's more of the hearts. I'm gonna go through this little, you know, mess here and sort it out. But you know, the other thing is that the base of the stem, if you peel off this outer layer of the stem, I'm just going to show you here like this. the part that kind of leads up into the heart, that inner part of the stem is also, you know, comparable in taste to the heart. So yeah, you're not looking to, you know, get a hearty meal out of these babies, but there's really something pretty beautiful about them, you know? So
Brenda had
that's
a
your
question too.
artichoke.
Yep, Brenda, you've got
Yeah.
a question? Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I'm just fascinated. And thank you for showing me how to do this because I am going to give it a shot. It looks kind of messy though, but it's okay. I'm going to play with it because I think this is something that would be fun to teach others, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. I'm super happy, and I would advise you to try to get your hands on a few leaves of oregano because I have made plant mayos so many times in my life that like people probably get bored. Oh, she's making another cashew cream. Oh, she's making another, you know, bean mayonnaise. Because I think that there's a zillion ways to enjoy these babies. But with the artichoke, there's something really lovely about the fresh oregano in this. It's my 2 cents, you know, but I'm excited that you guys are enjoying this because, you know, I've been cooking my whole life and it's the only thing that feels good is for me to pass along the knowledge at this point because I just think there's so much valuable information about there that makes plants so much more enjoyable that just needs to be shared, you know what I mean? So I'm happy you guys listen, and when you make it, take a photo, you know, like take a picture of you guys with your little peoples eating your artichoke and hold up a thing that says artichokes or something silly, you know what I mean? Because that's stuff that we can add to our little community that we're going to build, and that's stuff that makes me happy too, to kind of actually see people enjoying, you know, what we're actually doing here, like putting it into the rotation of their life, you know.
Love it. All right. If we don't have any other questions for Rebekah, thank you so much. That was great. And thanks for our amazing photographer. We appreciate his help. And we're hoping he's going to benefit
Thank
from
you.
some of the fruits of your labor or the artichoke of your labor.
Oh yeah, I am. Some of the hearts of her life.
Awesome.
Susan, you're brilliant. Thank you so much. It was so nice listening to you talk about all these things. And you know, you guys got a lot of brilliance between you, this whole team. So keep going.
Thank you so much. And
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, we really like to kind of feed off each other. It's a wonderful thing. All right, I'm going to stop our recording.
One more question. I have a question. Did the experience change having the moving camera and kind of moving in for the angles? It helps, right?
It does help. It's at certain point. Let me stop the recording real quick.
Yeah.